So the sand that we have local to us is a coarse sand, sometimes called a screeding sand or a concreting sand. But you see it's nice and coarse, it's got nice big bits in there, and it's also got some fine particles as well. This is a pit sand, or it comes from a glacial deposit. And if I put this now through the sieves, starting with 2 mil, going down through the sizes, you'll begin to see the selection of sizes that are in this sand. So there we have a very nice sand. It's well graded, and if there was a graph or a curve, if I had a slightly larger sieve, it would do this. So the majority of the sand is in this area, and we've got large bits and small bits, and when that compresses together, it makes for a very well tight plaster or render or pointing mix, which when it's compressed makes for a very strong lime mortar. So like I'm saying, this well-graded sand is a good sand or aggregate to use if you're making a render for outside, or a scratch coat, base coat plasters for the inside and for pointing. One of the biggest mistakes that we find is that people use too soft a sand. So this here is a fine sand, and people might use this sand for the base coats of renders and plasters. It's fine for top coating, maybe 4-6 mil coats, but it's too fine for anything thicker than that. If I put this through the sieve now, this is dredged from the sea or the estuary and then washed. And we'll see it's nowhere near as finely or as well graded as the previous sand. So if I was to make a render for my base coats with this sand, then it would crack. So if you were wanting to do a top coat or a fine coat on top, or you had very thin pointing bedding joints to point, then you can still use a fine sand, but even this still you'd want it to be graded. So if I put this through the sieve, it's important to only sieve sand when the sand is dry, that way it all falls through the sieves easily. So this sand we would use for a finish coat on a render, or perhaps internally where it doesn't have to be a polished finish, and it makes for a fine mix. So you can see we've started with smaller particles. We're not at the 4-5 mil level, we're starting at maybe 2 to 3, but the curve is still there. This time it's a little bit lower down towards the fine material, but this will make for a very good external lime finish.